Good afternoon, good afternoon,
Yo.
good afternoon, and welcome into another Titan Talk. It's almost a return to normality. Me and Kilbagoon are both back for the
We're
first
both
time
back.
in a
It's
second.
amazing.
Yes, I don't feel like death warmed up for the first time in a couple of weeks, so that's great. And Pompon embarrassed me enough in the last couple of patch notes. I will continue to do my best when it comes to showcasing stuff in game,
You
because
do
Pon kind of
great.
crushed it. So made it a lot simpler. But the three of us are here today with Pon joining us as well to go over some balance stuff and kind of just discuss with the community stuff that happened with Morgan Le Fay coming out and all the changes to the role systems and players' feedback and whatnot too. Pon, I guess start with you real quick. Like, how do we feel like day one? It's only been a day so far, but how's things gone so far?
No, nothing exploded in a really bad way, which I was actually actively worried about. There's a lot that could have gone a lot worse, but things tended to seem to be working. It seems like really the big frustrations people have are like there's a few things that are just overperforming in regards to the starters. So like there's too many Sands of Time going around, there's too many Warriors Acts going around, and so we're gonna do some pretty quick adjustments here to resolve that because we think the system overall works really, really cool. Junglers are really messing around with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
supports love it.
Yeah, supports are definitely having a lot more fun of.
Nobody
being able to,
likes
mess
supports
around
having
with
fun
stuff.
over them. Supports, that's the worst thing about it.
I think I do see it even like the other roles of like, oh, I play this character in like an off role and I can actually support that better by going to a specific starter in a unique way. Like just having more options, like having a strength user that can actually build some of the previously int only items is really cool.
Yeah.
So
Well, mentioning that, obviously, Pon mentioned we're making some adjustments. We're actually going to showcase some of those hotfix adjustments that are coming out, I believe, later today. I don't know if they're out just yet, but they should be soonish, or later today at least. But here's a little look. We're going to be seeing Bumba's Cudgel getting a buff, increase the strength and the intelligence of this item from 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 for intelligence 2. And Bumba's Golden Dagger buff increased the strength from 10 to 25 and 20 to 25 for Bumba's.
yeah, we did some compensation buffs for these items, especially their upgrades are probably still pretty good, but their base versions, they just didn't compete as the other starters did. So bringing them up overall to just help them overall. The Cudgel maybe needs a little bit more than this because I think Dagger has a bit more viability outside of like other stuff it was doing, but we'll keep a close eye on these. We just think these could come up overall.
Sands of Time has seen quite a bit of an increase in play with the latest update too, so we're going to see a bit of an adjustment here towards a nerf. Going to decrease the amount of mana regen, 0.6 to 0.4 per second per 10% of missing mana there.
Yeah, and this kind of pairs with the Pendulum Ages. Sands of Time was already probably pretty good overall. It gave a lot of regen, and so this should just kind of temper that a little bit. But the Pendulum of Ages nerf that's coming up here, the strength going from 5 to 3 per 10, this means it's a lot better, like, it gave, I think it was like 95 strength, basically full uptime for strength users, which is just a lot of strength to have, especially on such a high CDR item. For int, it kind of makes more sense just because of how int users generally deal their damage, but for strength users, it just felt overbearing. So toning this down means that the upgrade path towards Pendulum Ages in late game is a lot worse in that regard. We really wanted to focus on making sure that we didn't nerf too much the existing users of Sands of Time and Pendulum of Ages, right? Like, because that's a much closer balance point between that and Conduit Gem.
Sure.
So, but the strength side of things, we wanted to hit more aggressively.
And then War Flag, there was a couple of issues with War Flag, which wasn't actually giving you the attack speed correctly on both War Flag and War Banner. So if you do actually test it out now, you should actually feel that impact and see it a bit more in game. I expect that's one of the reasons we saw a bit of a drop off in play yesterday.
Yeah, people expected it to be really strong.
Yeah.
And then when they used it in practice, like, it's
not
fine.
that
It's
good,
because, it wasn't providing the attack speed it was supposed to.
And Warrior's Axe will be getting a bit of a nerf here as well on the strength side of things, going down from 15 to 12.
Yeah, we kind of went with 15-25 as our benchmark for a lot of like the adaptive stuff. And Warrior's Axe went from 12 to 15. We were like, yeah, it's probably fine, but we saw Warrior's Axe be a little bit overbearing. So tone that back down to where it was and then see if it needs further adjustments.
So they're the hotfixes that will be coming out towards the items within the next 24 hours, I believe. Should be later on this afternoon, but don't have an exact time for you. So make sure you check those out when they do get in game and continue to give us some feedback.
Yeah, a couple other fixes that are going to be in this update. Cerberus has been disabled since shortly after the update because his ult would throw you a very long way.
Yeah, it was really good. Really strong.
See the clip,
Yeah, so that was too good. So we disabled that. He'll be back with an appropriate ult pretty soon here. We ran into a visual bug with Arena for DirectX 11 players, which was not something that we found in our internal testing. Apologies for that. But if you're playing on DirectX 11 on the new Arena map, you currently have like a checkerboard floor texture. That'll be fixed in the next update. We had not play tested it on DX11, so apologies for that. And then one other thing that we're working on, I'm not sure if it's going to be in this next update, but I just want to make sure everybody knew that we're aware of, is that Morgan Le Fay is not respecting your cast settings for her second and third one.
Yeah.
So if you are used to playing quick cast or instant cast, your 1-2 and your 1-3 are not on quick cast or instant cast right now, which is leading to a lot of the feels bad and not fluidity that people are saying. Hydra mentioned it in our in the ambassador chat, and we had gotten a few comments about it. And we were trying to figure out exactly what the core issue was. We were like, something's wrong here, but that was the actual issue. So that is on our list to fix. And I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but those are kind of the main things that
Mike Typhon?
Oh, Mike Typhon has been disabled.
Yes.
What was he disabled for?
We think there's a crash case relating to him and Morgan Le Fay, and so it's like, do you disable Morgan Le Fay or do you disable Mike Typhon? And
Morgan
unfortunately,
poor Typhon. He's been around for so long. It's not his fault.
Yeah. So we'll take a look at Mike and see what's going on with that.
Yeah.
What specifically do we think it is? I'm just curious. I haven't heard.
The TLDR theory around it was Mike Typhon uses behavior trees. Morgan Le Fay uses something new called the state system to do the AI behavior. And Morgan Le Fay has a whole way of like recycling the clones that she makes that are using the state tree. And we think that there may be a bad recycling interaction with your familiar Mike Typhon is now getting recycled by that system in a way that is not expecting to. It's not expecting to have a behavior tree version of a familiar at all. That's the theory. That was a thought.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that was why they were trying to dig deeper into it. They wanted to disable Mike Typhon just to see if it had an effect on the crash rates, and I haven't checked back in to see if it did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just weird things about like what can break that you don't expect. I'm trying to think if there is anything else. Multi-queue went out.
Yes.
We had an issue with it on start where it was doing the old multi-queue system even if you had checkboxes. We fixed that. That seems to be working. I think the only known bug I have with it right now is it won't let you join with parties greater than 3 because it still has the old restriction on it, which I was going to go look at hopefully by end of today and be able to get that fixed for everyone. But overall, it's working, which is really, really cool. We may be able to remove the beta tag from it in a bit, which will be nice. New arena, people seem to be really enjoying.
Awesome. Well, I guess we can just take questions from chat then, right?
Yeah.
If that's where we're at for today, we just go through some questions and see how it's going. Because I didn't get to play a lot yesterday for a change.
Oh, I do have another one.
Go.
Performance for arena.
Yeah.
The new arena does have some performance issues. Doesn't seem to be affecting everyone, but it is affecting some people.
Yeah.
We are aware of that. We're actively looking into it. Hopefully we'll have a path that addresses that really, really quickly.
Awesome. I think that's the one thing we're always aware that we know we're doing stuff, but I know the community isn't. So it's always just good to make them aware. Like, yeah, we know we are caring and trying to keep an eye on it, and keep sending the books in as well as always, please.
Lord Caius, you play on DX11. He says the checkerboard floor scares me.
Yep.
So that will be fixed in the next update. It was a DX11 specific issue. Aphrodite is bugged. Her 2 doesn't push people away anymore. I wrote that down already, and I will take a look into that. I have not heard that reported, so that would be a surprise to me, but I will take a look and see if we can figure it out.
Yeah, we did do some stuff with knockbacks. That's why Kerberos has an issue. So it wouldn't be surprised me if there's other small interactions that are broken. But so if you see anything weird with knockbacks this patch, especially, just let us know. It's not super widespread, obviously. Otherwise, there'd be a lot more issues reported, but there might be some small things that are broken. How is Morgan Le Fay performing? Feels a little weak. You'd be correct. She is underperforming. I don't think she's underperforming like a major amount, and some of it is also like as we fix some issues around like the casting type, that'll just help fluidity, which will help her performance overall. But we're gonna keep a close eye on it. It's also like first day data, which is always really, really weird. People are experimenting with a whole bunch of stuff right now. Like I would expect that like there's some level of like it should come up over time as people get more familiar and more used to like how the kit flows. So.
Is not being able to see somebody's customized god card in a game a bug or intentional? This is a bug. This is something that we are looking into. That's on our list.
Are there any plans to look at the support starters? The starter was a huge mid-game power spike for support, and now you're not even to get it because you don't always get to level 20. I will say that was a thing that came up for me personally as well, because I'm main support, but like going from 15 pawn to, getting that online to now 20 feels like a bigger jump to really get to that late game stage.
I'd probably rather try and resolve that with other tools, because like outside of Conquest, like that was just kind of a way to get a power spike as a starter as a whole. It wasn't necessarily unique for supports in that respect. It's mostly a Conquest issue, and I think there's some other things we can do to help support players feel like they're keeping up rather than having it tied to the starter, because when you tie it to that, you have to start doing a lot of restrictions. Like,
that's fair.
I think someone suggested the idea of, well, what if you made the support starter make it, or the support buff, make it so that you can upgrade your start at level 15.
That'd be really good power spike. Yeah.
Now I really want to trade that to my mid laner so they can get Archmages online immediately.
That's
right?
true.
Like
level 15 Archmage sounds great for a mid lane.
Yeah, so that's why it's like you want to make sure that we address the problem in a way that isn't going to cause cascading issues. We like the flexibility being opened up, and there's other ways to resolve that issue rather than bringing back the starters at an earlier level.
Fair point.
There's also people asking about like how we feel about the impact that this is having on non-conquest modes, specifically around, tanking and being a more supportive character in those modes.
I think the goal there is just make sure that the support starters, as they were, feel impactful for like a supporty type of play style. That should just be something that we create. I think right now we had like two of them really just kind of existed and didn't feel like Benevolence is probably the one that felt like really like a support tool. Warflag was more kind of like, I just get a whole bunch of utility stuff. I think there's room for us to create things that are more support oriented without you feeling obligated to have to go them because they have this gold passive on them.
The question, are the Smite 1 stars bugged a bit in Smite 2 where they're not on the border of the badge frame? So we did fix the stars in this update, and we found that a couple of the center images are actually misaligned, and they have been misaligned since the start by a pixel or two. So we now have to realign the center things so that they are in the right place. But
I think I also saw that the stars might be small in some places.
Yeah, I know that. The mastery in the God Select screen is small. That's something that we are fixing as well. Yes, I'm not sure exactly about the star size, but I know that Charlie's looking at that.
Why is designing hard gods for high level play a bad thing? It's not necessarily a bad thing. You like when you're making a like MOBA where you want there to be a diverse set of characters to play. You want some level of characters that feel like they're more technically demanding to get the most use out of, because that's what some players like to like enjoy, right? They really like climbing that skill ladder. The problem is once someone has reached the top of that skill ladder or very close to the top of that skill ladder, you basically have to balance that character for being roughly middle win rate in that case, because if you tune them so that most people on even a middle amount of that skill ladder are about 50% win rate, that character's probably just busted. And that creates a kind of a nightmare balance problem. And it generally creates characters that are only good in very specific hands and therefore very unpopular and rarely seen otherwise. There's a few cases where that's not true. So Giannis, I think, is a good example of a character that like people feel like, even though Giannis has easily perpetually like a 46% win rate, and like when you're really, really good, you have a slightly higher than normal win rate. People generally think that's fair just because of if the impact and feel of what Giannis brings to the table. So Giannis is a case where that actually worked out pretty well, because even at a lower win rate, people tend to be like, oh yeah, this is like fun and I'm enjoying myself and I can find fun even when I'm not doing the maximally effective thing. Then you have some other characters that have like such a high skill ceiling that when you're not able to execute on it, you're just not having fun. That's like a problem. It's just really easy to fall into that design space, whether you like intend to or not. So it's more of you have to be cautious about when you create characters like that with that goal in mind, because you're basically stacking the deck against yourself that you're going to create something that at the end of the day is going to be unpopular, not used by many people, or create a nightmare balance problem. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's just you have to be careful.
Couple kind of related questions. One of them is, what's the logic behind adaptive stats on items versus letting players choose the stat that they want, strength or int? And then there was another one that was basically like, why change starters? Was this to fix ADCs getting jungle starters? No, I think the point of it was to kind of 2 points. The first one was to address support and jungle having a very restricted pool of starters, and if you didn't build one of two starters, then you were throwing the game. Like,
your win rate. Yeah, your win rate was actually just going to be so much dramatically worse that like you are functionally throwing the game by not picking them.
And then adaptive, because again, we want people to be able to have a lot of potential different options that they can choose from, right? Like, one of the things that's interesting about this new system is that like you can experiment with different things and see if it works, and have like theory crafting builds and having fun is part of what makes Smite fun. And this allows you to do more of that. It gives you more initial options. Like, our starter items are almost more like, like a rune, in some of the other games or whatever, right? There's more to them than just a this gives you some strength, this gives you, you know, a little bit of sustain or whatever. It's kind of play style defining, and letting you define your play style in more ways we think is generally a positive thing for the game. So it lets you experiment with more new things.
I mean, the other way of looking at it is that if you have strength and int on the item as well, it makes some gods that have multi-scaling have extra damage, whereas focusing on one rather than the other, or you can only put strength and int on it, which limits the availability of those guys to be able to pick it in the first place.
Yeah.
So it kind of keeps it more open.
Yeah, I think the only other note is like there's probably a question of like what the clunkiness of like some of the things about like Osiris Aspect, for example, is an int user, but Osiris is otherwise a strength user. And so right now, Osiris, if you go Aspect and you don't have any damage item, we'll choose Strength, even though it's really bad for Aspect Osiris, right? And there's some level clunk there. But you could fix that clunk by like adding a whole button that says, I want this adaptive style, I want that adaptive style. But that's a whole new UI element that people have to know about and know where it lives and have to choose. And so like this system just lets us get it in your guys' hands to get like most of the experience. And then we can focus on refining it. So like, for example, I want to start looking at, I have the ambassadors right now. They're kind of going through a list of like, it'd be nice if this was strength or this was int. And I'm going to go through and see if I can make it so that like Osiris Aspect starts as int instead of adaptive and just kind of works the way you'd want it to and expect it to, so that it's a fluid experience versus having to create a whole subsystem to make this work, when kind of the goal of a lot of what we do is give you guys really, really cool things as fast as we can. And if it's a little bit like rough around overtuned, rough around the edges, but it's fun, that's the highest thing. And then we can refine it from there. If we end up not doing it because we need the perfect implementation of it first try, just our team size, like it's going to be, you guys won't get as much fun stuff to play with if we take that approach.
Take a longer time too. And then sometimes they will fail. And if they don't work out, then we're going to be like, well, we're not getting anything because we spent time on this. Yeah. That makes sense.
By any chance, can we get solo and mid passive to have more fun added to them? 2 mana and 2 HP regen are kind of boring.
So that's intended.
Because Pond doesn't like you.
Yeah, I don't want you guys to have fun. Okay. The reason why is this was really meant to solve a specific problem around supports and junglers, and it felt just weird not to give the other roles anything. So they gave them the minimal amount of thing so that it was a thing. And I think that that's fine for what it's supposed to do, because again, the goal of the system was to resolve this specific thing in a way that like opened it up for those roles. And if it required that I had to create something fun for every other role, it probably just wouldn't have happened. The second is, I don't know if a role specific fun thing is actually the way to do it. This came up in ambassador discussions where they're like, well, why aren't we getting like kind of tiki style choices on like this system? It's like, I would rather make the tiki style system work and be the best it can be for the tiki style system, rather than have to tie it to this system that is already trying to solve a different problem, and therefore having to make compromises of what I can do in that like world, right? Like if we make it a role passive, I'm much more limited in what we could do in making it more fun. Whereas if the problem is, hey, I'm not having fun in this role right now, or I want more ways to have fun in this role right now, we could solve that as just a problem on its own versus trying to shove it into the system. This is like a common way of feedback that you get in playtests. There's people in playtests who start offering solutions, and that's cool. But generally what you do in those situations where someone's offering solutions, but they haven't really stated the problem, is you're trying to find what the problem is. Like, what was the thing that made them want to provide solutions to you? And you can work towards resolving that problem, versus if you try and just work within the solutions they provide, you're kind of like limiting yourself and putting yourself in a box to how you might tackle the problem that they have.
Which the problem mids and solos have is these don't feel as good. Is kind of it. Like compared to the other roles feeling like they got love.
Yeah, so like if there's like mid and solo laners feel like they need more things to do or more ways to customize their play, more like fun things to play with that are unique to them, I'd rather just focus on that problem than try and shove it into the system and it's going to be largely like a half-baked solution because it has to follow certain rules.
Now, obviously, with the starter changes as well, Pom, we've mentioned, like, this is kind of just step one. It's going to be an ongoing process of evolution through itemization and changes to stuff. So, like, this just getting this out the door in the first place, we knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but we are going to continue to iterate on it and expect to see more in the future, basically.
Yeah, and I think overall, like, even given, like, the amount that we changed in that one pass, like, I think overall it's already a success, and we can just refine it from here and make it even better.
I will say some people did mention like mannequins and stuff. Does this mean we'll see options like some of the old ones from the past come back? I know a lot of people, I forget the name of the item, but the one benevolence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Big fan of that in the support role too. Like, you know,
That's what I was
possibility
thinking.
for that.
Selflessness. I keep calling it benevolence, but
It's close, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Reducing the amount of damage was always good. Is there more chances of seeing more itemization or like early game stars, or is this like, let's hold on that for a second and then we'll see?
No, I think we can, especially with the goal now of like, okay, all starters are free for all.
Yeah.
We can very much focus on like what gaps might be missing in playstyles that people want to support. Before it was kind of like, okay, well, we have like, if you want to focus on clearing minions, we need the int version of that. We need the strength version of that. Now we can focus on making sure each one is very specific in its goals, which means that we can specialize them even more. And we can also look at places where there's gaps that, like right now, if people feel like there's not really like a true tank support starter, like if they feel like selflessness isn't providing enough, one, we can just buff selflessness. It's probably underperforming right now because it's still very ally oriented on its own.
Yeah.
So we could potentially explore more around there, but we could also just create new tank things for them to play with that feel like if you want to be the tank, even if that's necessarily in the solo lane, right? Like if you're going to be the front line for your team in the solo lane because you have a more like kind of enchanter style support, then that's also perfectly good to look at, and we can look to expand out.
Cool.
I do think the idea of like
Steel, another one people would just mention.
Yeah, Tainted Steel I think is interesting. Mannequins is just like one of those ones that like I don't know if I'd go investigate that one specifically. Because Mannequins is always either super busted or trash.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And those kind of items are always like really difficult to deal with. But new death metal, I see a few questions around it. One was asking about the like balance of it. I haven't had an immediate video of someone showing me why it's absolutely completely busted yet.
I've seen a lot of like clips of people testing it in jungle practice, going, "You can do 500 damage with this," but I've not.
But then in an actual game, I've
not really seen too much of it in live play really making a huge impact. But I love the fact that people are able to theorycraft with it and like potentially see the upsides of this item. Because at first you were kind of unsure.
Yeah,
how useful it's going to be.
I was very worried. I was about to introduce like the most broken thing in the game, and it's one thing like I could tone it preemptively and tone it underneath where I think it's going to be. But if I do that, I think it'd fall into the cracks and not be used, right? So I wanted to like kind of keep it strong. And I kept seeing people test it and like actually making that build is kind of difficult. We'll see.
Okay.
But I don't think right now I have any immediate action items on it. And then I do like the idea of trying to expand on the items that let you push a playstyle. Like I think it's cool that death metal goes like there's a very specific game plan, right? Stack a whole bunch of int, use your abilities, pop this, and use it to do auto attack damage, which generally works pretty good, but you kind of still have to have a kit that supports it and makes use of it. Like it works a lot better on Poseidon and Soul because they get some innate attack speed, so they can actually leverage that strength better than other characters. Yeah. So there's still some like it just kind of supports what characters want to do in playstyles versus just being generically a very strong item. I kind of want to try and make sure that when we add items, like they're more in that direction. Not every item needs to be that, but like more of those types of like this is an anchor item that you can build around. I think are cool that aren't just stat sticks. Like Deathbringer, I think, and Ratatouille, I think, are stat sticky, where it's like, if you're going crit or you're going high int, you're just going to build these, and like you're not really changing anything about like just going high int. Whereas this one, I think, gives you a lot more like to think about. Like, do I want to splash an attack speed item to make use of the strength better? How am I going to build around this to make sure that I get the most out of it? Like, you actually don't want CDR in that build because you're going to kit dump and then go into auto attacking. So like, you don't need CDR as much to be ability spammy. How does that change your game plan over the whole game? Like, that's a much more interesting question than anything else.
A couple people asking about CC buffering things.
Yeah, I have the plan for CC buffering if we were to reintroduce it. It's just actually getting time to try it.
Yeah.
We can go over it if people want to think about it. So CC buffering on or off probably doesn't make much of a difference. I think that's where we've come to is it doesn't seem to change any retention metrics. It doesn't seem to change some of the, like there's parts about it that are good and bad. It just kind of moves the pain around rather than like resolving anything. I think there's a version of CC buffering where we say, hey, server, was this within a certain time window? And if we do, we're going to let this be forgiveness such that it will still go through. So you're CC buffering only for like the last few frames of like, like if you were like just about to get this ability off, the server will be like, yeah, we'll let that slide through. Because I think that helps the situations where you feel like you have an ability that like was just about to go off, or like you had just left the ground, or you just like had like the big sound cue that indicated it went off, and then nothing happens because the server rolls back and says, no, you didn't actually get there.
Yeah.
Let that through. And then if we detect that that range wasn't met, we can actually pop up like a little interrupted text. So people at least have feedback of like, yeah, you got to a point where like it looked like it got very close to getting off, but we're actually going to let you know that like this was interrupted, right? Like, and that solves, I think, the really, really, really close point that CC buffering was trying to resolve without opening the door to things like I stunned you at the very start of this ability and you just kept going the whole stun duration.
Yeah.
And it also gives feedback for when the server decided to say no to you. That was an intentional thing versus a buggy thing. Like the server, like getting feedback, even if the feedback is like I still get interrupted and stop my attack, seeing interrupted text versus nothing gives you as a player confidence that no, the game worked as it was supposed to. Versus I don't know if the server was supposed to do that. I don't know if my client even ever sent the things up.
Is my ability bugged? Is it? Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that would be a cool world to go. It's just difficult.
Sure.
And it's one of those things that like anything else we could be doing, weighing that against it, and do want to open up the can of worms that is CC buffering again right now versus other stuff that we could be working on. But that seemed to be like the one that like most people were excited to try internally. We talked about ambassadors about it. They seem like that could be a good middle ground. So we'll see.
Somebody's asking if we can fix the screen shaking and freezing when Donzaburo throws his bottle at you on PS5. That should have been fixed yesterday. If you've still been seeing it since yesterday's update, please let us know because I think that should be fixed.
Yeah, I believe the stuff with Danzas
it should have been fixed.
Corrected.
And then there was another question. Is there a possibility to add just a number instead of the stars? Some players have so many stars, it just looks fuzzy. So this is actually by design. This is an intentional thing. We think it's better that players don't just instantly have the exact numeric number of stars that people have, because I think it can feel bad. I think it's probably the best word for it, where it's like, I'm going up against this person that like, if we were to transfer it just into raw levels, you know, it's like, I'm level 5 on this character and I'm going against somebody that has the equivalent experience that they are level 1500, right? Mm-hmm. And people are like, what the hell? This matchmaking is horrible, right? But we don't matchmake you based on what god you're playing. We matchmake you based on your overall skill level. And actually seeing those numbers, we've had some games that have actually shown you those numbers, leads to a lot more people complaining about the game and the matchmaking and that like, you know, everything's just unfair. Whereas just giving you this rough idea of, holy shit, this guy's played this god a lot, I think is more the goal of the system. It's like, man, that guy's played a lot of Aphrodite, you know, like that's really what it is. It's not like this person has played exactly 8,000 times as much Aphrodite as I have played the character I'm playing this match.
To me, it's even simpler than that. Like I actually just prefer stars in general. Like if I had a 5-question test and I got all 5 right, and I got 5 out of 5, it's like, yeah, cool, I got 100%. If I got 5 star stickers, dude, I'm so much more amped about the star stickers.
Way more fun, yeah.
How do you feel about the players using different starters than their role with the changes? I'm seeing a lot of hunters with War Flag. Would you want to up the power of the starters that are not getting used as much? I guess in general, Pon, like if we're not seeing certain starters getting used much, we're going to see potential buffs to them.
Yeah, War Flag especially got changed quite a bit. So it's a lot more kind of bruiser attack oriented. So it's just kind of a different, and we just need to see where that power level falls. It's funny because actually the complaint I've seen mostly is hunters are using
Sands.
They're using Axe.
Oh, Axe, yeah, sorry.
They're using Axe a ton. And so like the amount of people thought War Flag was going to be really, really good on PTS. And it wasn't actually performing really well when they tried it. And so we saw that drop off, although we fixed it because it wasn't giving the attack speed it was supposed to. So we'll see it probably jump back up. But yeah, we'll make adjustments, right? Like the goal is that...
I think that's what people always seem to be scared of. Like, no, this is the way now. We're not going to change him. We're just going to see War Flags and all carries from now on. And all supports with War Axe. And that's just going to be the way it's going to be.
Yeah. And it's the same way as like, it's just a wider pool of items that you can potentially choose from.
Yeah.
In the same way that like carries often are choosing between Death Toll, they're choosing between Gilded Arrow, they're choosing between like...
The Bomber's Cudgel was big for a while.
Cudgel popped in, right? Yep. Like, and that was like something like it's kind of like that problem, but now as intended. And we often just do bounce passes on these to make sure that there's good diversity. And we also try and push reasons characters want one over the other.
Any plans to up the lighting on the new arena map? Some parts are really dark. Overall, I think that we feel pretty good about the current state of the arena map, other than the DirectX 11 ground texture issue, which is going to be fixed, and some performance things. We have not gotten much feedback that people feel like it's too dark. Generally, people have been pretty pleased with it. If there is more feedback about it, let us know. But as of right now, we feel like it's, we don't plan on changing the brightness any further.
Someone's asking a question about like having like a healing specific stat to kind of push healing. It's something that we probably wouldn't do just because of the way we want to handle healing. The closer we get to is characters who aren't super healing oriented getting like int scaling so that they can be more healing oriented to be kind of close to where a healing god's power level is, versus if a god's already kind of a healing god, we kind of want to control that power level a lot more directly, because when it's too high, it just becomes frustrating. And we have to do a lot of like the whole pass around the anti-heal stuff that we did was around kind of normalizing that value so that we could kind of control that strength more directly and what that brings to the table versus having like a super wide spread. Adding things to create the wide spread again kind of reopens that path where at the end of the day, even if it's balanced, because we actually saw healers often be relatively balanced even when there wasn't anti-heal in the game, when like the stronger version of anti-heal was in the game and it had in scaling. When healing is too good, even when balanced, it just created a less fun game to play. In the same way that like tank metas create a less fun game to play. Tank meta can be a perfectly valid MOBA gameplay, right? Like you do all the things, you group up, you still contest things, but like there's something less satisfying about like larger kills not happening in fights as much, or fights getting more drawn out than they were before. There's a sweet spot that it falls into, and healing fights that. So we wanted to have more direct control over that number. So that's it. We don't want to kind of re-expand that out. Yeah, someone just dropped something heavy.
So, it sounded like a crash outside of our window. This question has been asked quite a few times, so I'm just going to answer it real quick. How much time does porting a stance switcher actually take compared to normal gods? I think realistically it depends on the stance switcher.
Yeah.
But essentially, if you have more abilities, then bare minimum you're going to need more FX time to do the art for those abilities. There's some level of additional design time for each ability. Some gods have pretty simple abilities though. So it's like, we haven't actually done this god yet, but a god that we've talked about, right, is Hell. Hell has pretty simple abilities.
Yeah. As far as like, if I had to just get Hell ready for a playtest, 2 days, probably. Like obviously there's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot more feels. There's like all the specific
just
interactions.
The super basic like rough version,
but
right?
like getting
just like 2 days away.
But like that is like the least important part of that pipeline, right? The animation team has to do a whole bunch of extra work.
Yes.
The VFX team has to do a whole bunch of extra work. Like in the fact that like there's some characters that are a lot more technically demanding to work on. Like Naja alone took me like 2 days, then plus playtest rounds of finding bugs with it to fix. Like Naja was a lot harder for me on its own, just with that one ability. In the same way that like the VFX team having to create twice as many VFX can be really, really. It takes just more time.
I think that's what we've mentioned too, is that some teams are stressed by certain goddesses over others. Like ones like Hell that have transformations and stuff may take more time in one team. Ones like Naja with a quick time event takes more time for someone like you on your team.
Yeah, and we also had to pull UI time to also make the new quick time event, right? Like so, like just every god has their own level of like. We have like a spreadsheet that actually ranks the difficulty for each department, and we kind of go through to evaluate where like the pain points are going to be. And it's really interesting to see like I'll rank something a 1, and then I look and I see that like it's only supposed to be like 1 out of 3, but then someone's rated a 4 because they're like, no, this is really hard.
Yeah.
If you could pick literally anything else, pick on anything else, because this is such a difficult thing for our team. So yeah, we're just always balancing that stuff.
How about we get all the gods in sprite form before their designs? We just put them all in sprites instead. How do we feel about that? No?
Do you feel like you'd be able to play well against a sprite that largely doesn't have VFX or sounds?
Just a
or
purple
animations?
block, that moves around. That'll work.
We have like a weird blue guy that like T-poses around. I still don't know actually where that's from.
The blue guy?
There's like a blue guy that like when we don't have any god model ported over yet.
Oh, that one with the face? Yeah.
Yeah, like it doesn't have like a face, and like it doesn't have any. I don't know why it's there.
I don't know where it came from.
I don't know where it came from, but it's there.
But he is the like go-to now, yeah.
This is just a funnily worded question. So, are there any plans to add a physical version of Sphere of Negation? I want Carrie and Jungle to understand my frustration when somebody builds that item.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume like generally speaking, we try not to have mirrored items where we can avoid it. Like obviously we have the spectrals because we kind of needed that in the short term at least. But like we want things to have their own unique identity. I totally get where you're coming from though. Sometimes where somebody builds a Sphere of Negation, you're like, oh my god, I hate this person. I can never kill them. So yeah, it's a funny take.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's like this is also something like this isn't a catch-all answer for everything, but like generally having someone have built Sphere of Negation should mean that someone physical on your team should be able to like target that person more aggressively. Obviously like there's a certain level of like that's just still too frustrating. We like it's like if you make things that are like literally will one-shot you unless you build this one specific counter, that's like the extreme version of that ideation is like, but the other person could just counter it instead. Yeah, but that's not fun. So we try and keep things within a reasonable amount of balance there, so like it's not crazy. We have nerfed that item before, but yeah, we don't want to have mirrors of everything because we think that adds some texture to the game that's interesting. We do try to find different ways to provide different types of effects that maybe fill similar niches.
Are there going to be changes to punish leavers, especially in ranked? It happens a lot, and you lose SR because someone leaves. Yeah, so we're going to be working on a number of changes that I have called anti-lever 2.0 because I just like calling things 2.0 when we go back and revisit a system. But there's a lot of things we want to do to reduce the amount of leaving and make clear that you shouldn't be leaving and penalize people for leaving appropriately. Our goal was to get that mostly into this next update. My guess is that it might slip to the update after that, just being realistic.
I did get something in today about it. So
cool.
So Charlie
and Charlie's got some stuff in for it already, but I don't know if we're going to get like the whole system in for this update. Maybe we'll ship part of it this update and then more of it will follow in the next one. We just started a little bit later on it than initially wanted to because I had a lot of the here's what we want to do vision design for the thing, and I was out for a week with bronchitis, so it just delayed us getting started on it. So
you've mentioned a little bit in the past, Gilligan, about exactly what that's going to be, right? Of trying to make sure people are more notified when they do desert and they feel a bit more pained.
Yeah, completely. It's like so right now, one of the problems is that you get what's the word? It's not that when you're a person who is a leaver, you get deserter. Thank you.
It's okay.
You get deserter, and deserter gives you a time penalty where you can't queue just right then. Yeah. Right. And what we frequently see is that people just don't play for a little while. Right. They're never actually penalized. They're just I don't want to play right now anyway. F you. Right. That doesn't do anything. Right. Agreed. So what's important is making clear to people hey, you really shouldn't be leaving. And the next time that you go to play, you have to serve your penalty, right?
Whenever that will be,
And when people are dodging games, one of the things we have a lot of requests for, one of the things that's on our to-do list, again, I'm not sure all this is going to get into the next update. It's right now we aren't telling you who has dodged, right? We want to make sure that we're saying this is the person that dodged, so you know who left the game, right? And then when they dodge, we want them to get a message basically saying hey, this is bad. If you dodge a ranked game, you're going to lose SR you lost the game because F you, right? You can't just dodge a ranked game and get away with it, right? So I think that there's a lot of things that we need to do to make it take their diamonds.
That's what someone said. I'm like, no.
No, I think there's just a lot of things that we need to do, basically change the culture around it to make it clear that hey, this isn't an acceptable thing. You shouldn't be leaving games. You shouldn't be dodging games. If something happens and you have to leave,
sure. A one-off occasion, there's emergency.
My power goes out, the game crashes, my kid, woke up from their nap and is, peed all over the wall. I don't know.
I
whatever,
saw desert reports recently for
like,
somebody that had to go because their family member had a car accident.
Yeah,
and they had to go and deal with it. I've seen that.
Real life happens, and I think that the system needs to be designed in a way where it's if you leave a game every once in a great while.
Yeah.
Okay, right?
However,
small punishment, right? Or you still should get a message saying you shouldn't do this, right? But if you're abusing this, which we think that the people who are abusing it are doing it a lot, then you're going to have to serve penalties.
For sure.
So.
And for context for behind the scenes too, I work closely with the support team and we are monitoring consistently with deserters and repeat deserters as well to make sure that they are getting actioned. We just don't have a great feedback system for that. And I think something that will really help is getting to that point of hey, you can see the name of the person. Because sometimes because you don't know who left, you assume it could be the same person on cooldown doing this, and it's not necessarily the case.
Could the commendation system be effective deterrence? I think the accommodation system would be something that goes towards the culture argument, but it's probably one of the weaker versions of that. I think generally the stronger versions of it are we as a company are saying this is bad versus saying we should reward good players, because that tends to be the one that people care more about is I want to make sure that the person who just ruined my experience gets a punishment. I did have a fun variation on the commendation system, which was when someone gets they get a bad mark on them, that people in the commendation essentially are if you vote for this person, it helps remove their bad mark. Oh. So now that commendation system turns into I'm holding it over your head, a bad person who, if you rage at me this game, you're not getting my vote and you're going to have this continued penalty on your account.
I like that. That's a good idea.
I think that's more effective at largely making sure that people understand what behavior isn't tolerated versus then rewarding good behavior is good. But as far as raw effectiveness, I don't think it's as effective as the other type of way of handling it. And there's if you go look at a lot of papers on this, people have very strong beliefs that are very opposed of how to resolve this issue.
Opposed, yeah.
And the fact that it's still so polarizing and such a big talked about issue in gaming, like it's a hard problem to solve.
I think it's always going to be a thing in gaming across all games. Like any of the subreddits, you can consistently see complaints about levers or toxicity in games.
It's just like, dude, solving toxicity is hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. Yeah. True Assault as a future match of the day. Thoughts? I think it's something we could consider doing. Running for a little while.
What is True Assault?
He means no bench.
No bench, no rerolls, no trades.
Yeah.
I
would
assume you would still get to reroll a trade, right? Because
no, that's not True Assault.
You want complete.
No,
random.
you.
Okay.
Like, I'm a big believer in
WoW
Assault.
Classic, no changes means no changes.
No changes. Stays the same. True Assault. Then we put a rank mode in for that. That's the True Assault heroes.
Next god's coming. Next god is Charon. Charon is 2 weeks from Tuesday, so just about 13 days from today.
Showcase next week.
Showcase a week from today.
Yeah.
And then after that, 2 weeks after that, will be Gilgamesh. And then we have not announced after that. We'll do another kind of roadmap-y show where we'll talk about who's coming after Gilgamesh when we get there.
Give the dessert a 10 HP all match, and they can't buy items to shame.
Ooh.
I mean, that
just means your team's going to lose,
right?
right?
I'd rather
Like,
just
that's
not have
not-
the game. Yeah.
They get moved on to Team 3, and everyone gets to beat up on them.
Oh, that'd be great. The start of the game is just kind of a shame 5 minutes where you throw rocks at them or something.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Someone mentioned, I saw 2 Naja ring toss catch fields, one about positioning and one about just feedback. I tried a lot of positioning rules before we went live with Naja. And I actually found that largely just tossing it to where Naja ends up actually working the best for most cases. I tried leading Naja a little bit. I tried going towards the target that it finally bounced off of, and it just made it more confusing to go towards. There's probably some level of improvement that could still be there, but I found that this worked out the best.
I think it's just, I guess, the point of when you end the ring toss of the mobility action that Naja's going through, because I definitely feel myself that there's a little pause. If I pause now, I'll get the ring, but if I continued going, I would probably lose it and it'd be behind me.
Yeah, so it's there might be some room to improve there, and I can take a look, but we kind of resolved on this solution after a lot of different things.
Better than random, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is better than random. And then the second part was just feedback. There is a fail sound, there is a catch sound, and there is also now the refire stuff that wasn't there before, where you actually will see a refire timer when you do successfully pick it up, which helps a lot with feedback.
Yeah.
I can just go make sure that those are all playing as effective. But we did try a lot to also make sure that was clear.
You made meditation uninterruptible by CC. Could we do the same for Pele's 3? It's very annoying, especially on Aspect, having to re-enable it 20 times during a team fight.
Is that parody?
I have no idea.
Don't know if it is.
I feel like that should just remain active.
I kind of feel the same,
CC.
but
that would have been my intuition.
yeah.
You can tell I didn't port Pele because I just don't.
I'll make a note. We can take a look.
It's funny because there's some characters that I've definitely worked on, and so I've gone through a really nitty gritty of trying to understand how they work, and then there's some characters that are ported. Man, I had no idea that was even a feature.
Jeez. Somehow I autocorrected to cat called instead of canceled.
Is there a possibility that a situation where if you sash by the ring toss, I could probably do some logic of if you are currently tweening to a target, it will try and choose the landing location. That's probably the most I could do.
But timing's really tricky on it, right?
Yeah, timing is really
tricky. Getting the ring
on
toss into the exact sash timing or sash, it's very tricky.
There's probably some things we can do to improve it. I can take a look at it. I wouldn't mind that'd be one of those things I wouldn't mind circling back and trying to improve as a character because it also doesn't involve any other departments.
Okay,
that's just purely my.
Hit me out. If you throw the ring toss out and then you ult and hit an ult, the ring will wait in the air for you to land. That would be kind of cool.
That's harder.
Okay, but that's where my brain's at. Where I'm like, that'd be dope. From a ring toss, hit my ult, come back down. Yeah.
When you ult someone successfully, when they land, they start throwing rings out for the next 5 seconds, and you get to keep trying to catch them.
Okay, that was a bit too much, but okay, yeah, sure, we're gonna go that route. But I expect nerfs in the future. First, not sure if that's the case.
How hard is an ability like Chronos Rewind to implement? Actually, not too bad. You're probably more dealing with the edge cases of some other interactions. But generally, it's just you're kind of keeping track of previous locations and values of their health and mana. Actually, I think it's only health. And then you're just kind of replaying back through them. And then when events happen that need to break it, so recalling, make sure that it resets the whole thing. It's actually not that bad. There's a lot, you could add a lot of subtle things that would make it significantly harder to do. If you wanted to, if you wanted to let it handle things I was in Aladdin's lamp and then I left and I want to rejoin a fight that still is happening because I want to rewind, that becomes infinitely harder. But if you're okay with making compromises when you leave the lamp, that's the start of your new rewind window, it's pretty easy.
What's the feedback we got about the starters change? I think the TLDR summary from the beginning of the show is some of them are too good.
Yep.
But generally speaking, people like having more options to experiment with and that they can build, right?
Yep.
And so we have a bunch of nerfs that are coming, and buffs as well, that'll be coming in the next update, either later today or tomorrow. And hopefully these get things into a little bit of a better state. I think that like one thing that if you've been playing this game for a little while, you will know that we are not afraid to try new things if we think it's going to lead to a better state for the game. And we don't always get it right. And sometimes we know that we're going to go through a little bit of, difficulty for a day or two while we work out some balance stuff, or, sometimes longer than that. But if we think it's going to lead to a better path for the game, we're going to try it.
I believe this hotfix is out according to what I've just seen in Slack.
Oh, well,
so
this may already be out. So there you go.
Hell yeah.
Quick little check there. So these hotfixes should be live in game right now for you to all play around with.
Yeah.
So keep giving us more feedback on them.
So someone went back to Sphere of Negation. So you don't want too many mirrors. What about making it adaptive that switches the protection and shield type? So that's one of those things that like part of its balance tuning is such that it is an int item. If you make it adaptive and make it switch, you have some issues where like, what if I do want it to be magical damage mitigation, but I'm a strength user, and now like it doesn't fill that role anymore. So there's some level of like, and especially now with the changes we made to like adaptive so that it cares about like what your base one is. If you're like a tank, like how does it choose that one appropriately for you in the way that you'd want it to? You kind of have to build in their damage. So that type of change has knock-ons in a way that like the original intent and kind of one of the balance compromise of the item is you're going to have to build it like on a character that like actually can leverage int, which means that only a limited subset of the characters can use it effectively. So it also means that you're not seeing it every match. If it was more adaptive, there's actually a chance that you raise the amount of times people see it and you have a whole bunch of people who are shielding in a way that like isn't intended. So like it's one of those things that like when we give certain items certain stats and kind of lock them not to be adaptive, we are making a choice about how their balance state works and also like how they function. And opening it up isn't necessarily just an immediate win.
Sorry, I was laughing at the comment that just came through. Find someone that looks at you like Hilgun does to Pawn. Sorry, I guess I look at you. Yeah. There was a question here that was, what other games are you playing right now? I'm going to turn that into a game that's coming out that I'm excited for, that just got release date yesterday. The Mermaid Mask. This is the sequel to Tangle Tower, the Detective Grimoire games.
Okay.
From the same people that also made Crow Country, if you've seen Crow Country. Very good games. Really, they also made Snipper Clips Plus for Switch.
Yeah. That's weird that I know that one and I don't know any of the others.
Yeah, the other ones are all like indie games, but or PC games. But Tangle Tower, really good like detective game. And then Crow Country is kind of like if somebody made Resident Evil 2 today. Like it's that same kind of perspective. It's very good. So I'm looking forward to the Mermaid Mask. That's my excited game for the moment.
It's funny. Bobby was put it the way Killer just putting two random words together and calling it a video game. Like I don't know any of this.
Sorry, I like weird games. I've always.
What about you, Pon? You mentioned Warcraft today, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think WoW expansion's coming out, so I will try to play that to the best of my abilities. But I am a parent, and I've learned that like actually even finding time to do the raid nights has been really really difficult. Other than that, I've been playing mostly just like roguelikes that have come out. So like I went through a lot of Monster Train 2's like challenge mode stuff. And I've also really been going into Eugenics because that one is like those type of games also I can just pick up and drop as needed. So like if I have to get up and do something, it's a lot easier. Like just to play even some Smite games, I've had to like look at Gailey and be like, look, do you think reasonably that you will not need my help for 30 minutes? And if Finn has an explosive diaper and you need my help and I have to say no.
You understand why?
Do you understand why? Is that okay right now?
If we see pause timers increases, by the way, it's Pong is related to. That's the main thing. I too have been playing quite a bit of Eugenics, kind of got addicted to that for a little while. So much so that even me and my wife both have it now and she's playing on the Steam Deck at the same time. So that's kind of crazy. But Mechabellum for me is kind of a real go back to. I've been really addicted to that. And Foxhole. If you don't know about Foxhole, they had a huge update as well with the Airborne update. So there's planes in that too. So that's always fun.
I think Nick Arnold's playing that.
He might be, yeah. Very, very addictive, but you are a cog in the big war machine, which is entertainment. But new patch for Smite, so I'm back to grinding Smite 2 now, going, okay, what can I do in support?
Oh God, someone asked what my main in WoW is. Here's the problem.
I'm going to guess you were a Druid first.
No, absolutely not.
Rogue first.
No.
No? Hunter. Don't be a hunter.
So
don't be a hunter.
Mage, I actually downloaded the app. Mage is like 60 to 70% of my playtime, and that was like the character I played from Classic to Wrath of the Lich King.
Okay.
And then after that, every expansion I basically have swapped mains and not played the same thing. So I just play basically at this point. I think I've actually now played with the last raid tier I played Rogue. Did not like, by the way. It ended up being really sad.
Yes.
I've played basically every class in at this point.
I think you do it at a certain point of playing Warcraft. You've probably experimented with everything.
And so now I'm currently between Monk and Warrior because if I'm actually going to even remotely keep up with gearing, I need to play something that can tank so I can get into tank queues.
That makes sense.
But I'm going to play DPS.
Because the queues are quicker, so you can get into them. You're not saying queue so long. Yeah, that makes sense.
And Windwalker is one that I've always meant to try. I did Brewmaster tanking in a raid tier, but I've always wanted to try Windwalker, even though like it's probably going to be sad and I'm going to be upset, but it's okay.
Report that Aspect Newt is bugged. She gets passive stacks from every tick of Bluestone / Soul Reaver.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to take a look at it. It's,
okay. Do you want to write it down and remember?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's probably like... That's the other thing is if an item hasn't been set up correctly, that now being exposed to more characters might show break cases. How do you balance extremely safe gods compared to more vulnerable gods? For example, Jingwei is extremely safe and doesn't have much of a downside. I'd say Jingwei's downside is like her, like especially her ability damage output's very, very low. And she isn't like super leagues and tiers above everyone else in terms of like just raw in-hand damage. There's characters that have higher peaks. And there's characters that have longer sustained than her, but she does have a lot of like really good crit explosive AoE, right? So like that's kind of the trade-off that you're making. Like Chiron definitely outpokes Jingwei by like a lot, for example, right? And Chiron also brings some team utility that otherwise like she doesn't. So that's the kind of like way like you look at what the character's good at, and then you try and find what the character's bad at, and like if the character doesn't feel like it's actually bad at something, then that's probably an issue. And that there've been some characters where that's been the case, but we try and make compromises there where we can.
Thoughts on Warding Sigil as a starter item? That was
I always forget what Warding Sigil was.
I think like didn't you get like a shield from like absorbing damage or something in the upgraded version of it?
It's been a while. I'd have
look
to go
it up. Look it up.
Okay,
Is the computer on? If it's not on, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
See, that boss is just forcing me to wait.
Look it up. I remember liking this
that
starter,
one was a very tank oriented.
Yeah,
if I recall.
I remember
mitigation when taking damage and healing when you take damage. Okay. And then that had the exploding one.
Yeah, it was the exploding thing.
Yeah, like that's an example of like a very
stack of dampening, gaining 5 protections for 5 seconds, and healing 1% of your max health. Okay.
Yeah, like that's a good example of like a tank item that is very, very, very tank focused. That like if you feel like there's no real good tank options right now, which I'd say there's the closest is probably like obviously the not benevolence, selflessness.
Yeah.
Like selflessness is probably the most tank item that we have, which was a support one
shield
which we
for
need to expand.
teammate.
Yeah, which like there's probably needs to be like a selfish tanked
one?
item. Like that feels like a gap that now does exist.
If I get hit, I'm going to get some of this benefit back, extra protections or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. That seems like that type of like gap to fill is probably good. Yeah, we can consider bringing it back or try something new, right? Like that's like the example I talked about like in playtest feedback. Like, hey, I want this item back. And what it's asking for is like, hey, there's like this gap that needs to be filled. Now you are also saying like, I do also like this effect, which is another side point, but like, filling that gap makes a lot of sense. That one could be a good option to fill that gap. We could also have 2.
Yeah. A couple of questions coming in now. I've seen we've answered already. Like thoughts on mannequins is a possibility for new starter items in the future.
I just don't like mannequins, and I was the one that
I think that's one that everyone kind of goes to for some reason because it felt weird to play as yourself. It was fun, but others didn't really enjoy it, I guess. And then there was also mentions of support upgrades being earlier. We've mentioned we're going to be investigating what we can do with those in the future. But because of how the passives are on your actual role, it means that they're going to have a knock-on effect changed as well. So,
does having the tech for Aladdin make Heimdall easier to port? They're different. They're just different.
It's because in my mind, like, from my understanding, it's like Aladdin's a different world, whereas Heimdall had a special world.
Well,
a special traveling world he took people to.
If I recall how we actually implemented it, there was just a VFX that could play.
Yeah.
That when you ulted, you basically went up in the air, had a VFX play around you, or like you move through the VFX.
You move through the
like
VFX,
that environment.
Right? That's what I thought it was.
The environment wasn't actually like an environment world asset.
Where Aladdin's lamp is like there's a map.
Yeah, there's like a map.
Yeah.
So like they're just different.
Yeah.
Like it'd be one thing like if you got ulted into Heimdall and like you actually stayed in like the different realms for a little bit and you could move around in them. That would be something that's way more.
Force them to run through the realm to get out each one. That'd be cool.
that we've talked about that kind of like banishment thing, but like actually like making it feel balanced and not just reasonably like unfair, like you know, time out.
Yeah, 20 seconds running through a map. Yeah.
Yeah, like 20 seconds running through the map is like a really crazy version of CC. That also like the other part is like Aladdin also solved an issue about like that world being skinned, so we can actually skin Aladdin's like different level, and there's rules around that. That solves one part of like Heimdall. When we first made Heimdall, the rule was we absolutely cannot ever skin this asset because it was a huge environment asset. And we also didn't have like a great way to skin it. We solved half that problem. Well, 5% of that problem. The other 95% is making a whole new asset for every skin would be absolutely wild. That's like the other part. Like when we made Heimdall, like that's the one other thing was we make compromises all the time about like what can a character have changed in the future. Yeah, Heimdall art will never skin too much art. Yeah, pretty much. And it's funny too. When I worked on Heimdall, I had to, the art team basically forced me to say, I will never ask for this to be skinned. They're the ones who end up asking to skin it because like, but it would be so cool. And it's like, no,
you said no.
You told me no.
You can't say this. Look, it's written down that you said this to me. Yeah.
You told me no. We're sticking to it.
Item that blows yourself up and you die, but hugely buffs your team. I would say that's probably something that would never happen. I don't
As
think
a support main, I'd do it.
Yeah, but I don't think we want it like to get into the situation where it's like the correct move is to not play the game, right?
Yeah.
Like
like
that's true.
Again, that's a really cool thing for like a roguelike-y type thing. Like I had literally in Eugenics a run where I had a character that just turned immediately killed themselves to give everyone a huge stats and blow up the map, and then spawn like 50 creatures when it died. Like, great, cool for that type of game. Not great for a team-based MOBA.
True.
It is 2.
It is 2.
Sorry, I've been miles away. My time is not even on here. But we did start a couple of minutes late. But anyway, it does mean it's time for
one more question.
We get so good at that these days. Everyone's getting into the flow. Let's try and find good questions now.
Yeah, I'm trying to be selective. I guess this one might be weird to bring up, but I'm going to bring it up just because I feel like I don't actually know what the actual support team's answer for this is.
Go on. I thought I saw that.
Smurfing. Like my guess would be when used responsibly, we're not going to ding you, but if you use it abusively, we're going to ding you. It's like if you smurf to play with a friend and you go super support tanky and you don't just stomp every person you run into,
pretty much
cool. If you use
if you're playing with low-level accounts consistently and then only playing on that to consistently do that and going 20-0-0 every single game, then you're probably going to get dinged for that if you've got a main account. The only other time we will ding you for having smurfs and stuff like that is if you're playing on them while suspended. I'm a big believer of if you get a suspension and you try and jump on a smurf to avoid your suspension, your main's going down too now because your smurf's going down as well. So like that's kind of how we look at the smurfing situation. We can't completely stop people creating a new account to play, but we can monitor that against your regular accounts to make sure that you're not really abusing the system because you are average at the game and you want to feel above average. So you're taking on people who are newer to the game than you.
Yeah, that's what I figured the answer was, but I was like, it's worth saying. I'll take that as mine.
Thanks.
Well,
you can throw me one.
That's what I was about to do.
That's true.
How do we feel about Redstone ever coming back? I feel like this is one that comes up a lot. I was never a huge Redstone person, but I know there are people who are like, this is the thing that we're missing the most, right? It's like the attack speed.
Yeah, that was one that could basically converted like because like the idea around those was like this one's ability focused and this one flips on its head, so it's more attack speed focused. I do think a gap in current starter functionality is the ability to pivot later. I think there's some level of like you're locked into some choices so that you don't have like I don't want you to be able to upgrade your current starter to like any other starter because that would be kind of wild, and like it also means that like no one can kind of predict what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
But some level of like I can kind of see they're building towards some more attack speed stuff. I can see that they're going for this thing. It's kind of cool. I don't necessarily like it necessarily just doing the same thing Smite 1 did of like, okay, it's just a choice. I think there's some cooler things we can do. And I've said this before of like, we often have like ideas for how we might do something in a more interesting way. But if we end up pushing that for too long and kind of keeping an improvement to the game closer to our chest because we think we have a better idea going forward, but it's been like a year and we haven't been able to get the time to do it, then maybe we'll just go with the easier version. So we'll see. I do think that the specific problem of having some way to pivot your starter choice and more specialize a playstyle decision change that you made, because that's one of the cool things about MOBAs, right? Like you start the game, you have a plan, but things about the game have changed to make you change the plan. If your starter feels like you're stuck though, like feels bad, and I think it's worth trying to solve that case. Sorry, I know that's not about Redstone specifically, but like that's what I kind of think about like the starter system as a whole. And to get Redstone, you need that kind of like customization in the starter system.
I haven't found a question. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm useless.
No, you're not useless.
Let me self-hate, okay? It makes me feel better about it. How do you feel about the ability for one person to pick up several buffs at a time? Would you ever consider going back to one at a time? There you go, Pom.
Sorry, say that again?
The buff situation, someone was asking, how do we feel about it, that one person can pick up multiple buffs versus just one per person?
I do feel like I like being able to pick up multiple buffs, because especially with the amount of buffs in the nice thing is when there's the contestable buff, especially like if everyone on my team has like our own side's buffs and there's the contestable ones, we've won them, but we can't pick them up. That just kind of feels bad. I like being able to pick those up. I think we've also found that like, one of the concerns was people could just like, I'm going to 4-stack on one person, be super selfish. I think we found that like that just doesn't happen, right? People tend to they want to win.
The correct buffs to the correct person. I mean, I guess is that the starting buff in the jungle or the conquest, for example, now and again you'll see the junglers, well, now and again, a bit more than now and again. The junglers will get the speed buff and the first red buff just to help them clear earlier on. Yeah. But then you'll see the trade off to the mid laner as well.
Yeah, and that seems like I generally see that choice made. Like I'll see the mid laner back off the red and be like, okay, they clearly want me to pick it up, right? Like if they're going for it and they're standing in a position to pick it up, I'll like make the kind of judgment call. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, they can have it, right? Like I think it overall worked out pretty well, and it also solves a situation of like, it did feel bad to drop a buff and be like, I just have to let it sit here because no one on my team can get it.
True.
If we were to remove that, I'd want to solve that problem with that change.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in today for the Titan Talk. We'll be back on Friday with more. Anything special on Friday we got at the moment?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment, but maybe we'll have something fun by the time we get there.
No, for sure. I mean, I will mention real quick, I forgot to mention this, but SMITE Prime this weekend, it's the Joust tournament time.
There are a lot of teams that signed up for this, you told me.
Yeah.
Over 100 teams so far guaranteed that have signed up for this Joust tournament this weekend. So expect to tune in and see some craziness there. Also, OSL's opening weekend for the Olympus SMITE Draft League.
I heard you're playing in this?
I play in the lower divisions, and I'm not even playing this season. I got benched. I got drafted to the bench, so I just kind of sub in when needed, so don't worry so much about that. However, OSL will be having their first feature on the SMITE game channel, so tune into that too. But also SMITE Prime Joust, so get to see your first takes on Joust and how all the Star Rhyme shake-ups may have impacted there, how things are going to play out. But thanks all for tuning in. We'll see you all Friday, and if we don't see you beforehand, we'll see you on the battleground. Goodbye.